January 2nd, 2016, Otto Warmbier was waiting for his turn at the check-in line at Pyongyang International Airport in North Korea. He was about to fly to Hong Kong with a group of international students after spending New Year's Eve in North Korea's capital city. Minutes before his departure, a group of agents approached Otto, but no words were spoken. They tapped him on the shoulder and then escorted him out. According to his roommate and travel companion, Otto didn't show any resistance or concern. On the contrary, he half smiled and followed the agents. That was the moment Otto Warmbier lost his freedom forever, because on June 14, 2017, 6 days after his return to the US, Otto's parents requested the University of Cincinnati's medical center to remove the feeding tube from their son, who'd been in a vegetative state for almost 17 months. For many years, the fatal health complications remained a mystery. What exactly happened to Otto in North Korea? What was the crime that led him to getting killed? And why were American authorities unable to identify the cause of death? This is the story of an American college student who's become North Korea's most controversial political prisoner. Otto Warmbier was an adventurous, athletic 22-year-old with a bright future ahead of him. He graduated from Wyoming High School in 2013 with the second highest GPA among his classmates, which allowed him to get a scholarship from the University of Virginia, where he would be majoring in commerce and economics. He wanted to become a banker and loved traveling. He'd already been to Ecuador, Cuba, and Europe before he got into college. 17 months before his passing, he managed to get accepted into an exchange program in Hong Kong. Since he had a few days until the program's start, he decided, along with his exchange student group, to take a detour trip to North Korea for the end-of-the-year holidays. Young Pioneer Tours, the Chinese travel agency that booked his trip, gave him assurance about the level of safety U.S. citizens have inside North Korea. The same agency later removed the U.S. client section from their website. On December 29, 2015, the student group took a flight from Beijing to Pyongyang, North Korea's capital. They checked in at the fancy Yonggakdo International Hotel and spent the rest of the day sightseeing. According to Danny Grattan, Otto's roommate, the group visited Kim Sung Square for the New Year's fireworks show. A few hours and drinks later, they all went back to the hotel's bar to continue the celebration. Grattan claims that everyone had consumed alcohol, but no one was falling over or acting a fool. From their return to the hotel to around 3 a.m., the group was unable to identify Otto's whereabouts. For more than 2 hours, Otto was hovering around the hotel all alone. At exactly 1:57 a.m., while everyone was either partying or sleeping, Otto snuck into a staff-only corridor on the 5th floor of the hotel and attempted to take a propaganda poster back to his room. He tried to separate the frame from the paper poster to conceal it, but after many tries, he put the poster on the floor and left. Although the security camera footage is low quality, it matches Otto's body figure. Grattan later claimed that on his return to the room at 4:30 a.m., Otto was already asleep. In most countries around the world, playing around with public property would be considered a misdemeanor or even misconduct, where usually the person would end up paying a small fine. But that's not how things go down in North Korea. Vandalism in North Korea is taken very seriously. What made things a lot worse is that, allegedly, the poster depicted the supreme leader. Otto was accused under North Korean law of an extremely serious crime, subversion of the state. During the following 6 weeks of Otto's arrest at the airport, no one in his travel group or family knew what was happening. All communications were lost until the North Korean Central News Agency KCNA published an update on the situation, only stating that the young American had been arrested due to hostile acts against the state. On February 26, 2016, a televised press conference took place, where Otto confessed to his crime and the reasons behind it. And this is when things start to get weird. Otto seemed physically and mentally exhausted during the press conference. He even broke down in tears while reading a confession from a paper that clearly was not written by him.
I beg that you find it in your hearts to give me forgiveness and allow me to return home to my family. One final time. Please, I have made the worst mistake of my life.
In his speech, he mentions that his crime was ordered by a secret organization called the Z Society, as well as another one called the Friendship United Methodist Church. The names feel like they're some sort of cult, but in reality, they're much less interesting. The Z Society is nothing more than a charitable student organization founded at the University of Virginia. Its members stay anonymous to honor a central concept that philanthropy should be secretive. As for the church club, a senior pastor denied any relations to the Warmbier family, since the Warmbiers are Jewish and can't be part of a Christian organization. When it comes to the actual incident itself, Otto had striking evidence against him. Fingerprints, witness testimony from a hotel staff member, and surveillance footage showing him taking a poster off a wall. On March 16th, Otto was convicted of subversion of the state under Article 60 of the North Korean Criminal Code, meaning he was convicted of attempting to undermine the unity of the North Korean people through an act of vandalism. He was sentenced to 15 years of hard labor, despite Human Rights Watch describing the trial as unfair and politically motivated. As bad as hard labor is, what was waiting for Otto was much worse. One of the main goals of the successor leaders of North Korea is to develop the most powerful military force in the world. This results in the country's continuous development of nuclear weapons, which made North Korea the biggest international threat for many countries around the world. With tense negotiations, several human rights violations, and constant international pressure, North Korea has to pull every trick in the book to win time against human rights organizations and numerous other countries' sanctions. To counter back at the sanctions, North Korea started taking regular visitors to the country as political prisoners, usually exaggerating minor offenses like Otto's case, or allegedly falsifying evidence to arrest US citizens and use them as bargaining chips in political negotiations. Otto is transported to a labor camp. He is put in a roughly 3 by 2 meter cell by 2 guards. Normally, regular prisoners are put into larger cells, with each cell holding up to 10 inmates. One hallway, cells left and right. When a prisoner gets beaten up, everyone in the facility can hear it. Of course, that was designed intentionally. However, Otto Warmbier's imprisonment at the camp was not the same as a regular prisoner. Before the press conference, the agents had to extract a confession no matter what, which meant a lot of suffering for Otto. In North Korea's prison camps, beatings are not considered torture. They're just standard procedure. The prisoners would get hanged upside down for hours. Guards would then beat them with their fists or wooden bats. When they're not working in the fields, prisoners have to sit on the cell's concrete floor, cross-legged, for up to 16 hours a day, usually malnourished and walking around barefoot. Foreign prisoners would get beaten for irritating the guards by simply not speaking Korean. These prison camps also use other torture methods either to extract or force confessions, sometimes to teach a lesson. Waterboarding, electric shock torture, sleep deprivation, and chili powder torture when guards would mix hot chili powder with water and inject the mixture into prisoners' nostrils. North Korea constantly denies the use of torture in its camps, but numerous defectors have said otherwise. Otto didn't last long in those conditions. Only a couple of months into his sentence, he was hospitalized and spent the following 15 months lying on a hospital bed. At a time when relations between North Korea and the United States were hostile, getting Otto back to his family was getting harder by the day. The United States put negotiator Mickey Bergman and former UN ambassador Bill Richardson on top of Otto's case in hopes that they would use their United Nations connections to try to secure a meeting with North Korean officials. After multiple attempts, they finally received an invitation from North Korea to send a team and evacuate Otto. June 13, 2017. The plane landed in Cincinnati, Ohio. He was immediately taken to the University of Cincinnati Medical Center for immediate evaluation and treatment. This would be the last public photograph of Otto Warmbier. For the next 6 days, he continued to be completely unresponsive. On the 6th day, June 19th, the Warmbiers decided to pull the plug on their son. But the story doesn't end here. It was believed that extreme torture led to the deterioration of his health. Right after his return to the US, doctors performed multiple tests and scans to determine Otto's illness. Normally, it's not that hard to identify torture victims, even with basic medical exams. Scars, concussions, fractures, internal bleeding, these injuries are what doctors are used to seeing. In Otto's case, none of these things appeared in the scans. Otto's body was almost intact, apart from a small injury on his foot. However, what the diagnosis later showed was clear signs of brain damage. This is what a normal, functioning brain looks like, and this is what Otto's brain looked like.
We have evidence that his brain was deprived of oxygen for a length of time significant enough to cause severe anoxic encephalopathy. In other words, brain damage caused by lack of oxygen to the brain.
If North Korea claimed that he wasn't tortured and doctors couldn't find any concrete evidence proving any type of torture, what happened to Otto? What made him go from a bright young man to a dead body, all without leaving any trace? In 2023, during an interview, a former highly ranked North Korean state official spoke about the Otto Warmbier situation. After he escaped North Korea, he started speaking out about what goes on in the country from an insider perspective. What he mentioned was a revelation to the rest of the world.
물고문은 있거든요. 그 내심처에서는 다 해요, 거의나. 우리가 알고 있는 것처럼 고문이라고 하면은 조사 과정에 때리는 거는 구타라고 합니다.
If North Korea was able to develop nuclear weapons, what would stop it from reaching high levels of biological and chemical advancements? After all, maybe they didn't even have to touch Otto to torture him. Maybe he saw and heard things he shouldn't have. Maybe the reason behind his release was simply a way for North Korea to avoid having an American political prisoner die inside the country. For now, the full details of Otto Warmbier's story remain a mystery. The only person who has all the answers is this guy, and we won't be hearing much from him anytime soon, or never. If you liked the video, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.